Here's to alcohol, the rose-colored glasses of life, once said by F. Scott Fitzgerald in his The Beautiful and the Damned. And here's to educating people in the art of the classic American cocktail. Creation of the old-fashioned, a sophisticated whiskey cocktail for the experienced drinker. And now here's to Andy to describe just how did this drink become so popular during Prohibition.
Hey guys, so to start you off here, it's probably good to know just what a classic cocktail is. They're originally made from your spirit of choice. In our case, it's bourbon, sugar, bitters, and just a splash of water. Simple, right? Now, it wasn't always that easy to get it. As easy it is to walk into a bar now, say if we were all born in the 1900s, it wasn't like that. In the 1920s, the US government started, Prohibition. Crime rose drastically thanks to the mob. Now, the leader of the mob at the time was Al Capone. And if you've been living under a rock, Al Capone was the leader of the Chicago outfit of the mob, and he imported all of the whiskey and hard liquor from Canada. Now, with the increase in crime also came an increase in demand for the whiskey. It was much easier to make than traditional beer, and more people wanted it. But at the end of the Prohibition era, 13 years later, it still remained at an all-time high. The old-fashioned rose in demand and has remained popular to this day. Now, on to Nash, who will explain just how it stayed a staple in the cocktail scene.
So let's get back to the origins of the drink. Before the Old Fashioned was actually an Old Fashioned cocktail, it was just a whiskey cocktail and was actually recommended to be drank in the morning to help your complexion. However, many bartenders started to put their own spin on the drink, do things they thought that they could make it better than other people, so they added their own little flavor to it, and a lot of cocktail purists really hated this, didn't like it, and really wanted to call back to the old-fashioned cocktails of before, and thus the old-fashioned was born. It was made in the Pendennis Club in Louisville, Kentucky, and was made popular by a Colonel James E. Pepper, who popularized the drink and brought it to New York City with him when he left. This popularity really increased until Prohibition, and then after that, everybody remembered the drink that they loved, and they knew it was made with whiskey, fruit, and sugar, but didn't really know how to make it, so they just got kind of this muddled alcoholic fruit salad mess, and it wasn't that good. It wasn't until the early 2000s when a real resurgence back to the original recipe came about. A lot of people really started appreciating the craft of making old cocktails and the mixology behind it, part thanks to the show Mad Men, where it's Don Draper's drink of choice. However, because it is so popular again, a lot of bartenders are doing the same thing where they're adding their own spin on things and changing it how they think that it should be made when really it's not necessary, and we may see another return to form again here in the future. Now let's find out what makes an old-fashioned really old-fashioned.
The quintessential part to making the old-fashioned whiskey cocktail is going to be the whiskey. We're going with a bourbon, specifically Maker's Mark, because of the vanilla and caramel undertones. The difference between whiskey and bourbon is going to be that bourbon has to be distilled in a new charred oak barrel, where whiskey just has to be distilled in an oak barrel. Bourbon as well has to be made in the United States, where whiskey can be made wherever. In the drink, we also need Angostura bitters. We are using just a regular Angostura bitters, but you can also get one with orange in it as well. The Angostura bitters is 44.7 proof alcohol with a little bit of essential oils and a little bit of natural herb just to give it a little bit of flavor. And now on to the moment we've all been waiting for, making the drink.
Now, traditionally, this drink is made with a glass that's actually called the old-fashioned glass and similar to the martini, so that's what we're going to be using today.
Alright, so we're going to be starting off with cube sugar versus simple syrup.
Now, cube sugar was originally used in the old-fashioned, and again, comparison, you can always use a simple syrup that's also can just be store-bought, but since we're making a classic, we're going to go with the sugar cube.
Alright, so after the sugar cubes in the glass, I'm going to need the Angostura bitters. So this is going to really help add some depth and flavor to the cocktail, and we're going to be doing 3 dashes of the Angostura. Alright, give that just a moment for the sugar to break it down. Alright, and what I'm doing here is muddling.
Now this process of muddling, just simply grinding the sugars, breaking them down really finely, because alcohol actually does not absorb sugar very well. So just breaking this down really gives it a chance to absorb in the whole drink at the end.
Alright, make sure that we get all that sugar in the glass. Okay, so after everything's broken down, we're gonna go in with an ice sphere. So we've just been freezing this one overnight. You can get sphere molds online or through bartender websites. And then we're gonna go in with our bourbon. So we decided to go with a bourbon because it is a little sweeter and it does have a little bit of a smokier taste compared to a rye whiskey, which is gonna be a little bit more spicy. So with this, we're gonna be doing 1 ounce first to start.
Woof! It's gonna be a good one.
And then we're gonna give that a stir.
Now stirring just lets the sugars and the alcohol really absorb and bring out the drink's flavor, true flavor.
All right, and then we're gonna go back in with the 2nd ounce of Maker's Mark. So that's gonna be 2 full ounces in the cocktail. And give that one last stir. All right, every great cocktail needs a beautiful garnish. So today we're gonna be doing just a regular orange. So you can either go in with a vegetable peeler, but I prefer to go in with a knife. It's a little easier to handle and you get a little bit of a thicker slice when you're slicing through the orange. Okay. So if you can just see this white part on the inside of the orange, we're going to be removing that today.
This white part is actually called the pith, P-I-T-H. We take that off because it actually reduces the bitterness of the drink and also really brings out the essential oils of that orange, and I can really smell it right now.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to lightly squeeze it and kind of release some of those essential oils into the cocktail. We're going to rub it around the rim of the glass. All right. Go ahead and place that in. And there you are, folks, an old-fashioned.
Now you all know how to make the old-fashioned cocktail, a whiskey beverage that all whiskey connoisseurs should have in their recipe book.
Make sure you drink responsibly and do not drink and drive.
Know your limits.
And here's the alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.